Hello everyone, it's good to see you all, and it's great that you've decided to check out Charles Street in brief. If you told me at the beginning of this week that I'd be sitting here in my garden recording this, probably wouldn't have believed you, because I came back from holiday and I was feeling really tired and exhausted, and I couldn't think when I saw Nigel's email asking for people that I could possibly do it. I'd gone on holiday with the family and I was tired before I went, and although we had a wonderful time, I was even more tired when I got back. And then I had a huge work deadline, and I saw Nigel's email saying, would anyone like to do something for Charles Street in brief? And I thought, well, nice idea, but I just don't have time. Too busy, too overwhelmed. And then a little voice went through my head which said, if I managed to get all my work done, maybe I could do it. And then I had a very fleeting conversation with God, which went along the lines of, if you think I ought to do this, then you're going to have to help me. And then, to my surprise, the miracle happened, and all the information that I needed to gather together that was filed in inverted commas, in various places around our house, all just came together, and something that I'd expected would take a whole week came together in an afternoon. And at that point I knew that God was expecting or hoping or enabling me to talk to you today. So we're going to have a song now. The song that I thought we could all join in together with is Do Not Be Afraid, For I Have Redeemed You. I have called you by your name, you are mine, which is a song that's really helped me during lockdown.
Redeemed you, I have called you by your name, and you are mine. When you walk through the waters, I'll be with you. You will never have to sink beneath the waves. Do not be afraid, for
I've said so far, you might think that I've had a really calm, serene and God-filled lockdown. And many parts of it have been really good. I've been for lots of lovely long walks. I've met friends covertly at a distance. I've learnt that you can do the hokey cokey and play pass the parcel on Zoom when it was Jeb's 60th birthday. But actually, I've also been really cross and really angry and really sad. I haven't liked not being able to do what I want when I want to do it. I haven't liked having to move my psychotherapy practice online and talk to all my clients through a computer. I haven't liked not being able to see my family for months on end. And although house group and church via the computer is okay, I haven't really liked that either. And if I'm being really honest, and why wouldn't I be, then actually I've been quite cross with God for letting this happen and for not helping me respond to what's happening in a better way. And then I've been cross with myself for feeling that. And when I finished doing all my work on Tuesday afternoon, when everything just fell into place, I finally allowed myself to have some time to think about what I'd been almost telling everybody else for the last few weeks, about the change cycle and about the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who said that there were many stages to loss and change. And originally she had a set sequence for them, but now we tend to think about people moving around them. So moving through being anxious and angry and yearning for things how they were and being sad to getting to a place of acceptance. And I know for me and for many people I'm talking to, we're kind of drifting around those stages. We're sometimes feeling really angry that we might have to wear a mask, or really angry that we can't do things that we're used to, or we're yearning for things to be how they used to be. And then we get tiny flickers of acceptance of this is how it is, and we just have to accept it. And I realised this week suddenly I'd made a big change about work, that instead of being really angry, I'd got to see my clients on Zoom. Actually, I went to the virtual shop and bought some furniture so that from September my office can all be wiped down and I can wear a visor and I can start seeing people in a new way and stopped waiting for this to be over so that I could do it differently. And that sounds like a small step, but actually for me it was very significant. And then I began to think about God and his response to my sadness and my crossness. And I began to think about my recent experience of being away with my grandchildren and noticing how much more tolerant and kind I am towards them than maybe I was towards my own kids. When my children were little, I was really worried about were they eating properly, if they were rude, were they doing their homework. Somehow really caught up with it all. But when I watch my grandchildren, I've got much more understanding, much more warmth. When they were really grumpy and difficult just before we were leaving, I didn't feel upset that they were being rude. I just thought, oh, they're sad underneath. That's what's going on here. They're just sad. They don't want us to go. And I could understand that and help them process that. And I just knew that what they needed was to know that they were loved and valued and that their upset was being understood. And then it made me think a bit about my image of God and how so often in art and in children's storybooks, God's represented as an old man. And actually, when we think of God the Father, the reality of most dads is they're probably people in their 20s and 30s. And yet, the thought of God being more grandfatherly, in a way, helped me see someone more loving and more accepting. And in the way that I'm one generation removed from my children, I've got more understanding. It just made me think, wow, God has that perspective of thousands of generations, and how much more awareness and understanding he must have of people's foibles and their tantrums and their meltdowns and their upsetness. And it just made me realise that what I needed to say to myself and what I needed to really know was that God loves me. Even when I'm cross and angry, I'm still accepted and acceptable, and he's not going to reject me because of that. In some ways, when I see my grandchildren being upset and being vulnerable, I feel even more warmly towards them, and who knows, maybe it's the same for God. So the message I want to kind of leave with you today is the message I need to hear, and maybe the message you need to hear. I don't know where things are for you, but it's back to, do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. Amen.